for the conclusion of enabling. Thank you all so much for joining me. Good evening. Did you bring your tea? Did you bring your tea? You remember, I'm finishing up the last of my hibiscus iced tea. Bring your tea. We are going to bring to a conclusion enabling. But what are we going to do first? Let's get our quote out of the way. Tonight, the quote says, this is something. It says, we cripple people who are capable of walking because we choose to carry them. Now, is that a whole mouthful of what? We cripple people who are capable of walking because we choose to carry them. And Christy Williams is the one who penned that. Could that be you? Could that be you? Tonight, let's do a recap from Tuesday. On Tuesday, we talked about most of the time when we talk about enabling, we think of drugs or alcohol misuse and addiction, but it goes beyond that, as it can refer to patterns within close relationships that support any harmful or problematic behavior, and it is easier for this behavior to continue. We talked about the difference between enabling and empowerment, and there is a definite difference between the two. Enabling behavior can seem like helping behaviors. It may seem like it is with your best intentions, and you are enabling someone without realizing it. Without realizing it. Empowerment does not mean solving or covering up the problem, but it does mean that you help that person by giving them the tools they need, help them access resources, and teach them skills. In other words, you give them the power to make their own choices, decisions, and solve their own problems. Some of the characteristics or signs that you might be an enabler that we talked about on Tuesday are ignoring or tolerating problematic behavior, providing financial assistance, covering them and making excuses, taking on more than your share of responsibilities, and brushing off things. Now, that was just a quick recap of Tuesday. Now, tonight, we're going to bring this all to a conclusion, but I've got a few more signs or characteristics that you might be an enabler. So, you ready? Number one is denying the problem. Denying the problem. It's hard to acknowledge that a loved one has a problem and they need help. And as stated, you are not empowering them with the tools that they need, i.e., helping them find resources or teaching them skills, but instead, you are covering for them, solving problems for them. In other words, you are not giving them the power to make their own choices and solve their own problems. Next is avoiding issues. avoiding issues. And the same way I did on Tuesday, we're just going to do some hypotheticals, okay? Hypothetically speaking, he or she is driving your car in a supposedly job hunting venture. They are late picking you up from work, and they are agitated when you get in the car because they know you are going to ask them, how did the day go? And or, why are you late picking me up? When you know deep in your gut, once they dropped you off at work, they hung out with their friends, they went back to the house and overslept. So you avoid asking any questions as to avoid a confrontation, avoiding the issues. Not maintaining your stated boundaries. Not maintaining your stated boundaries. Healthy boundaries are important in any relationship. And so hypothetically, that person has fallen on hard times, lost their car, and has nowhere to stay. Your boundaries are that you can have the couch for a week, and you must clean up after yourself. But the stipulation, you can only be here 1 week. They come in with all of their stuff, filling up your garage because they don't have the funds to get a storage, and you allow it. Let the game of manipulation begin, and you start to hear Barry White start to sing. You keep telling me this, you keep telling me that, in my Barry White voice. And within 2 days, they're no longer sleeping on the couch. Within 2 days, they're no longer sleeping on the couch. And they're dropping you off at work in your car. They have your lace front completely turned around. And you know what I mean. Not maintaining healthy boundaries. Next, no following through on consequences. No following through on consequences. So you said 1 week, and it has now been 1 month. You lead with empty threats at the end of 2 weeks. The next thing you hear is Keith Sweat singing "The Way You Make Me Feel, Make It Last Forever." And you never follow through. Just empty threats. You might be an enabler. Next, sacrificing or struggling to recognize your own needs. Sacrificing or struggle to recognize your own needs. You have started to dip in your savings because what was supposed to be 1 week has turned into 1 month. That person has no funds to help compensate for their lack of. Grocery bill is higher because it was just you, now it's 2. And now depending on if you have children. You having to fill up your car twice in a week instead of once. No donations towards the rent. And remember that scripture that I used on Tuesday? It was Proverbs 10:14. It was the Living Bible translation. And it said, lazy men are soon poor, hard workers get rich. So a lazy man and or woman soon are poor. And so are you trying to cover them. You might be an enabler. Next, feeling resentment. After a while, you start to feel some kind of way. Your eye starts to twitch when you see that person. You start to get in your feelings. Feelings of resentment, feelings of anger, and disappointment rises. These feelings cause you not to present well. You may have the tendency to direct these feelings towards others, towards the situation, even towards yourself. Resentment can damage your emotional well-being, but it can also help you realize the situation may not be healthy. How do we rectify these characteristics? How do we rectify these characteristics? Bring these issues to their attention. Offer compassion, but make it clear these behaviors are not conducive to you, for you. Bring these issues to their attention. Offer compassion, but make it clear these behaviors are not conducive for you. Encourage them to get help. You are not it and cannot afford it. Empower them with the tools they need to move on without you. Set healthy boundaries and uphold them. Let this situationship be a lesson learned that will keep you from making the same mistake. And last but not least, remember that it is okay to say no. Find your no. It's okay. And find your no, and you do not have to give a reason why it's no. Okay, so now let's get out our life book. You got your life book? The Bible? And I just have one scripture for you tonight. Get a sip of your tea, because I'm going to read this in the Message translation. I think you need it in your face. You ready? 2 Thessalonians 3:10 through 15. And I'll be reading from the Message Bible. It says, "Don't you remember the rule we had when we lived with you? Don't you remember the rule we had when we lived with you? If you don't work, what? You know it. If you don't work, you don't eat. And now we're getting reports that a bunch of lazy good-for-nothings," this is not me, this is the Message Bible. And now we're getting reports that a bunch of lazy good-for-nothings are taking advantage of you. This must not be tolerated. We command them to get to work immediately. It didn't say in a week to 10 days. It didn't even say a day later. Immediately. So you know you're without a job today. you need to start looking today. McDonald's, Burger King, whatever. An honest day's living. Immediately. That's what the word says. And it says, no excuses, no arguments. No excuses, no arguments, no excuses. Well, I'll start tomorrow. It just took me by surprise. I got to get myself together. No. Find your no today. And earn their own keep. Friends, don't slack off in doing your duty. Do not slack off in doing your duty. Yeah, we finished early tonight. And I want to thank you for just sitting in with me for the conclusion of enabling. If in your journaling, and if in those persons that you are in a relationship with, in your singleness, find it in yourself to say to them, no, I can't do this. I don't have the funds to do this. Resentment doesn't look good on me. Anger doesn't look good on me. I cannot do it. So in your journaling, see if you might resemble some of these characteristics and rectify them, because it's causing you not to present well. Again, thank you all so very much for sitting with me. I'll see you on Tuesday, 5:30 Pacific Time, 7:30 Central, and 8:30 Eastern for You, Me, and Tea with Lady D. And if you have someone that missed this, I will upload it on YouTube. Search again, You, Me, and Tea with Lady D. Thank you all, and good night.